Most of the Czechs, and Germans for that matter, docked and came into the United States from Galveston and settled in the southern part of Texas. Of course, Czechs and Germans could farm. They knew how to farm, and so they knew this area was very fertile, and that's how they settled here.
They were uneducated, first of all, very uneducated. They were what you would refer to as the peasants. They came here for freedom, first of all. Secondly, they wanted to be able to own land, because where they came from, they could not own land. So owning land was a virtue, it was precious. This town is about 70% Czech. So the immigrants that came here were kinfolks. We didn't speak English. My first language was Czech. And we learned to speak English in convent schools.
I mean, so much of the history and culture of the community is tied to the Czech people. And one of the things that SPJSU seeks to do is preserve that heritage and that culture for the next generation.
To be Czech in the city of West before the explosion was very unique. It was unique to the city, unique to the state, and really to the country. We were a very close-knit community. A lot of us are kin to each other. And so, you know, the Czechs grew up that way. I grew up that way, and I know my neighbors knew me. And so we were a brotherhood, a family.
The Sokol gymnastic deals with mostly younger kids. So our enjoyment was to provide a place to actually go and do gymnastics and have a good time. Also next to the gym was at Long Star Hall. And there they had Czech weddings, Czech functions, Czech family reunions, birthday parties, anniversaries, just numerous things from one generation to the next generation to the next. So it was a very good place to have your functions, because you can remember that, hey, my parents were married in here, and then you got married in there. So it was pretty neat. Everybody knows that neighbor, and to me that makes a community stick together and help each other out. No matter what functions are going on, the whole community is there to help each other out.
It hit me, and really, I mean, all I saw was big smoke. I saw the initial blast and then a lot of smoke. So I didn't see any fire at the fertilizer plant. Obviously, the oxygen had been taken out. But there was a fire at intermediate school, and so I got back in my truck, and I made my way around to the intermediate school. That's where I saw the devastation.
And then I went home and gave, my husband said, you stay here, I'm gonna take the keys and I'm gonna go open the Sokol gym, because the rest home is just right down the road. So when he calls me back, he goes, can't open the Sokol gym, because it was exploded. So he grabbed all the mats and took as many residents as they could to the football field.
Once I made that corner and I saw the people coming from the apartments that were bleeding and cut, and then the houses that I noticed that were blown in, that's when I knew the magnitude of this explosion.
You know, we're just so lucky that there was not any sports events, and that we didn't have gymnastics practice, and that everybody was just like not on that side of the town. And so, you know, it's just like, it was just, if it was going to happen, that was the time to happen. You
just can't help but know that God had His hand on the controls, and He just made possible that everybody was going to survive this blast. It was at a time where the kids were out of school. It was before dinner. It was before this and before that and after that. And for some strange reason, everybody was somewhere else that evening. Why all of it happened, you know, at that particular time is it makes you realize and recognize. Don't ask any questions why. That's because the good Lord took care of it.
It's very warming in your heart to see how so many the community just came together, no matter who they were. And because they being such Czech strong community, they did not want to take food or drinks or groceries. And it was like, they says, no, we don't need anything. I said, you just lost your house. You need to take what you need to get from day to day. So they're very strong-hearted that they were not going to accept any gifts. So being a Czech person, to me, that's how we are. But the Czech community came together. I mean, it's just overwhelming how one family just lost their house, but they're helping another family.
In the aftermath, the city is coming back. It looks better in so many ways, some of the areas that have been rebuilt, than it ever did before. And that wouldn't have happened without this tragic event. The loss of life, tragic, of course, you know, but even in something as devastating as the explosion, something positive is coming from it, in the renaissance, if you will, that the community is going through.
I've had benchmarks as a means of measurement for this town's rebuilding. The first house that was rebuilt, the neighborhoods that opening back up, the nursing home starting to build, the school that just broke ground that will start rebuilding. Those were all benchmarks. The next benchmark, which will happen very shortly, is the groundbreaking and the rebuilding of the so-called hall. And so that is another benchmark that measures our success in the rebuilding of this town.
I'm ready for the kids to get off the street and come back into the Sokol gym to have somewhere to go. They are, you see these little kids all the time. Are we going to start yet? Are we going to start?
There are a number of us on the board of directors of the American Friends of the Czech Republic who came from Czech neighborhoods in Chicago. We grew up understanding the importance of the Sokol to the community. And when we went to West and we saw the destruction of their Sokol, it immediately occurred to us that here is something we could do for these people to help them rebuild a source of pride for the community and a source of pride for all Czech Americans. Fortunately, the government of the Czech Republic responded with a nice contribution, and we are going to help raise the rest of the money to rebuild this important community center, or Sokol as we call it in Czech.
We've got beautiful people, and that all came to light more than you could ever imagine during the explosion.
The Czech community will thrive. We are a strong community, a resilient community, and it's just like our forefathers that came over here on the boat in Dr. Galveston. They had the hardships that we can't even imagine, and that has carried on through this generation. You know, this generation, you know, has taken up that, and they will survive and they will thrive.
That tradition of and discipline of honesty, hard work, integrity, and your faith in God, that your faith is so important. That has stayed with us all this time, and I think that is the reason that everyone survived as well as they did. They didn't seem to find that much of a problem out of a problem. In other words, they didn't refer to it as a problem. We talked about it, we're going to resolve this, and we're coming back bigger and stronger than we ever were.